Hi, everybody. Here we are for our devotion for Thursday. And we've been talking about the way Jesus is proclaimed in the Old Testament and how everything in the Old Testament leads to Jesus. And today we're in Exodus. And remember last couple of days, we were talking about Joseph, who got the Israelites to Egypt because they were starving. And you remember Joseph was the second most powerful person in Egypt because he had foreseen what was going to happen through the dream that Pharaoh had. And he was in charge of this whole thing. And he brought all his brothers, that are the 12 tribes of Israel, to Egypt. And there they prospered and did very well and multiplied a great deal. And this became a problem for Egypt because now they were so big and so powerful and so strong that if there was a war, they were concerned that the Jewish people, the Israelites, would go in favor of would be in favor of the enemy, and then they would be overrun. So they were very concerned about that. So I wanted to read from Exodus. So now we're in Exodus. And here is Exodus chapter 1, verse 8. Eventually, a new king came to power in Egypt who knew nothing about Joseph or what he had done. He said to the people, "Look, the people of Israel now outnumber us and are stronger than we are. We must make a plan to keep them from growing even more. If we don't, and if war breaks out, they will join our enemies and fight against us. Then they will escape the country." So the Egyptians made their Israelites their slaves. They appointed brutal slave drivers over them, hoping to wear them down with crushing labor. So they made them slaves, and this really was, not a good thing. They were in terrible labor. And then at the end of chapter 2, it says, years passed and the king of Egypt died, but the Israelites continued to groan under their burden of slavery. This is verse 23 of chapter 2. Verse 24, or they cried out for help, and their cry rose up to God. God heard their groaning, and he remembered his covenant. And his promise to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He looked down on the people of Israel and knew it was time to act. And this reminds us of another time when it was time to act, and that would have been the time of Jesus, because here God remembers his covenant promise to his people and a blessing to his people, and he knew it was time to act. He sets in motion a redemptive momentum that leads to the ultimate fulfillment of the covenant in Jesus. So this covenant runs through the whole Bible, and it is something that God always has this promise that he's going to take care of his people. And finally, he takes care of the whole world in Jesus. This covenant is fulfilled in Jesus and his death on the cross. It is an amazing thing and quite just a great fulfillment. So you can see the covenant starting here, being fulfilled, God caring for his people. God, you know what's coming next is a great exodus where they leave Egypt and then they're traveling in the wilderness. And we'll certainly be getting into that in the next few days and weeks. Anyway, so what does that do for us? Well, it's good for us to remember that the promise of God is with us no matter what situation we're in, just like we talked about with Joseph, that we don't really know how God is working in the world. And we don't know what he's doing. I just heard this pastor say that this COVID crisis is like God taking the church and sending it to its room. That maybe the church needed to realize that it had to use this new medium that we're using today, that I'm using today. I mean, I started this Bible study online, and I don't know if I ever would have done that if it hadn't been for the COVID crisis. So maybe this is God preparing us for something even bigger. Who knows? But I know that God is in charge, and he's in charge of our lives. And even though it seems bad, like the Israelites in slavery, God still has a plan. God still remembers his covenant. God still is with us. God still will care for us every single day. God bless you. Have a great day.